Juneteenth Legacy. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I want to let you know next week is our Juneteenth Legacy Conference. I'm so excited for it. I'm wearing my Juneteenth Legacy shirt for this year's theme is whatever it takes. If y'all want to get a shirt, go on out to JuneteenthLegacy.com, click your tickets, and in the Event Noir, it's the Event Noir website, it'll list you different tickets, and one of those is you can buy your t-shirt. So every purchase of the t-shirt, it funds empowerment programs for young people, better leadership, better confidence, better communication skills, all the things they need to be successful in life. I'm so excited about that. All right, so today's topic that we've got is how to make your first $1,000 podcasting. Now, I do want to make sure for the purists out there, this is my graphic. I built it on Canva. That's their Canva Pro picture. All right. But this is my graphic. I didn't just bootleg somebody else's graphic, but I was in one Canva Pro account and that company closed and I lost access to them all and I didn't have time to rebuild it. So here's what you got. Okay. That's just for the purists out there. Our topic today is how to make your first $1,000 with podcasting. And I love having a podcast. And we've just recently rebranded our podcast at Conway Financial Group. So let me see if I can pull up that screen for you real quick. Let me just see. Hopefully I can do that. I should have had that picked up before I started all this, but I didn't think I was going to show it to you. We tried to set it up. We're still working on it. It takes a while for the name servers and all those things to propagate. We are trying to set it up. There we go. Let me pull that out because for some reason it's not letting me share it the way I want to. Let me go and share that. Hold on. Stop. Oh, I got to stop that screen first. That's why. Share screen. I just want to show you this real quick. Choose tab. All right, we just rebranded so if you listen to the podcast, you're going to find that some of them say Building Wealth Together, some of them say Ladies of Wealth, and some of them say, hey, we're transitioning to Ladies of Wealth. We weren't all the way done with all of the Building Wealth Together content. However, one of the things that I realized is it's June and we've been transitioning since, January. So I was like, you know what? We just got to go ahead and get this done. And then at some point, everything will be caught up. And if it's not caught up, well, that's a good problem to have. In fact, I'm going to talk to you today about some of the resources that you have for sorry, I know for all my Toastmaster friends out there, I know I shouldn't say what's caught me off guard is my screen is wiggling. Can y'all see my screen wiggling, or does it look good to you? Because for me, it looks like it's shaking. And see, even there, it's the focus on the camera when I move. Really? See, I think this camera's been through one too many airports because I'm actually using a headset today because lately it's been acting weird on me where it's been getting a lot of distortion. And so I'm using a headset today, even though I have a really high quality camera. Okay, so today's topic is how to make your first $1,000 with podcasting. I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly about podcasting. I'm going to tell you what worked for me and what didn't work. I'm also going to tell you how you can get started with just $20 worth of supplies. The way I am as a financial planner, I know that a lot of people waste a lot of money buying into different things, betting on themselves. They're encouraged and hyped up to go do the thing. And if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. Well, I want you to believe in yourself. But before you go out and spend thousands of dollars on this concept, or before you spend $10,000, $20,000 publishing a book, before you spend $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 buying into the next great business opportunity, you might first want to check that those things are going to actually resonate with your audience and the people that you care about, because you don't want to spend all that money only to discover what you've got to say is something nobody wants to hear. Now, I discovered real quick what I wanted to say was really not what people wanted to hear. Thankfully, though, I hadn't spent any money on my podcast back then. We'll talk a little bit more about that. as we get started, I used free tools like Free Conference Call to record my early episodes, and it definitely opened up my eyes to a lot. So we're going to cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of podcasting, and then we're going to ultimately conclude with how you can make your first $1,000 with podcasting. If you want to, y'all know how I roll. I always make 2 promises with every one of my broadcasts. It will always give you something you can use today. So I'm always going to give you something you can start working on right tonight and start profiting from next week, depending on your work ethic and personality. And then I'm also going to give you an opportunity to dig deeper. And I've already put it down here underneath me. So literally, because look at my new look, y'all see my new Speakers Magazine cover. That's the June cover of Speakers Magazine. Oh yeah, Pam, shout out to Pam Perry PR. All right, so I'm always going to give you something you can use tonight. That's my first promise. I'm always going to give you something. You can see the link down there. I'm always going to give you an opportunity to dig deeper, because if this is for you and you don't want to walk it alone, sometimes it's nice to have someone come alongside you and hold your hand and help do a done with you kind of solution. All right. You can be successful doing it on your own. I was successful doing it on my own for a little bit, and then I connected with some podcasters that were at that time, just like I am now, full-time speaker, trainer, coach, podcaster, vlogger, all the things, right? And then I realized, hey, there's better ways to do this. So if you want to shorten your learning curve, go ahead and click that link and book your time on my schedule. All right. So now let's go ahead and get into it. Let's see what camera view I want to use today. I kind of like this one so you can see me and the screen. Let me see what else Let me see what else StreamYard does here. I'd like playing. Every so often they introduce something new like this picture in picture, which I like, but I think it's going to cover up the slides. All right. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, listen, one other thing before we get into it. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Okay. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. If you don't want to ask them publicly, you can go to askjjc.com and you can type your question in anonymously, and I will check that at the end. Sometimes, though, when we do that switcheroo with the screens, when I check them at the end, sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes it messes with the broadcast. So if that's the situation, we'll catch it on the next broadcast. But as of the start of this one, I didn't have any new questions, so I'm not going to go back to it until at the end. But if you have a burning question, I encourage you to write it in the chat. All right. A lot of times we think that people are so judgmental and we don't want to ask our money or business or other questions because we feel like we should already know that, or we feel like everybody around us should already know that. Well, I got a lesson in that recently with Reddit, because on Reddit, a lot of people use anonymous speaker names. And so I've had a Reddit account for a long time that you would never know is me. But then I started answering questions, and then I started telling people about my podcast. And then everybody wanted to know, well, where can I book time with you? What's your website? What's your podcast? Well, back in the day when I started on Reddit, it was just to learn what other people think about this, that, and the other, and some pretty sensitive topics that could have caused me trouble in the military. So I didn't want to be known. And then it was like, well, gee, now I got to create a public account so that people can honestly know who I am. Well, then the question comes when I had questions about podcasting or I had questions about vlogging. Do I use my real name? Do I use my real account, or do I use my fake account? And they're all real accounts, but the real name or the fake username. And Reddit supports multiple names, y'all. I'm not trying to pull anything over on them. Facebook doesn't like you to have multiple accounts, but Reddit does. So I had to make that decision, and making that decision to use my real name on some of these Q&As that are related to my business, it was a little bit of humble pie. But guess what happened in that amount of humble pie that I had to eat? Nobody cared. In fact, there's only one time in the last year that I posted something under my real name and asked for a question that I had people come back and be rude to me. And that was one about transitioning my oldest son's YouTube channel to my youngest son. And they're like, how dare you put your kids out there? It's not safe to put your kids out there. And I'm like, have y'all seen my husband's Facebook page? That was a losing battle. As soon as we had our third or fourth date, I realized that was a losing battle, because that man, he is Mr. Facebook posting, and he has a wonderful audience of people. But it was already kind of over for my kids, my oldest son, at least, when I was a finalist for Miss Veteran America. And they sat us all down and they said, hey, you are public figures now. If you're concerned about the safety of your kids or all this and all that, you better take action to protect them. And maybe this isn't the arena for you. And it was like, you know what? I think of all the good that I can do as a public figure, and all the good that I can do outweighed the risk. So a lot of you, you remember when Philip was called Peanut. I'm not worried about you kidnapping Philip now. He 18. He almost grown. I say almost because I believe you are not grown until you pay your own rent and you buy your own toilet paper, right? But he's practically there. And so, ain't nobody going to steal that 200-pound young man. But the cubby, that's a little different. But y'all remember when we used to call Philip Peanut, and then people would come up to him, hey, Peanut, and he'd be like, Mom, who are they talking to? So and it's the same with Cubby. If you come up to Cubby, he's not going to know who you're talking about. Well, he might know now because enough people have he's heard me teach the class enough time, but he won't answer to because he does not like that name. And one thing about the men in my family, from the youngest to the oldest, you ain't gonna make them do something they don't want to do. Okay, so anyway, I don't know how we got on all that, but today, if you are just joining us, we are going to be talking about how to make your first $1,000 with your podcast. All right, and so we're going to be talking about that, about your podcast. Oh, I know how we got on that topic, because I was just saying, don't be afraid. Yeah, I said all that. To say, don't be afraid to post your public questions or on the comments. Don't be afraid to ask your question publicly. First of all, nobody really cares. And if they do care, you can just succeed and put them to shame. All right. So now we're going to talk about our topic of the day. And if you are listening to me as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, then I encourage you to join us every Thursday night. We do a live class, and those live classes are usually what the podcast is extracted from. We'll have a mix. We will. I mean, we do. We're in a high number of episodes now. We've been doing this for a couple of years. We have a mix of interviews as well as teachings like this. Okay, so if you are listening to me as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, then I encourage you to go out to my YouTube channel, LinkedIn, Facebook. JJ Knows the Way. You'll be able to see the graphics. The graphics aren't that big of a deal unless you're the person who wants to actually get the exact same things, because I'm going to talk you through the slides. All right. Let's get started, y'all. Okay, so this is what we're going to be covering today. Very first thing we're going to talk about is the focus of your podcast. There are a lot of people out there who start podcasts. Simply because they got something to say. Now, I don't have a problem with you starting a podcast because you have something to say. However, it's really, really important to understand what the purpose of your podcast is. I have financial clients that we have literally created blogs, vlogs, and podcasts so they could express themselves. And something that you're using in that vehicle to express yourself is different from something you're using in a vehicle to make money. Okay, so we're going to talk about focus. Probably should have saved that discussion for when we got there. We're going to talk about focus. All right, we're going to talk about what gear you might use to record. And I like to focus on you spending as little money as possible to try something out before you spend the big money. Okay, we're going to talk about what gear to get started with. We're going to talk about what gear to ultimately end up with. We're going to talk about editing, distribution. How do you get your podcast out there? How do you market the podcast? How do you actually profit from the podcast? It's not what everybody thinks. If they haven't done their research, most people think one thing about profiting from a podcast when it's actually a very real different animal. And then the last thing we're going to cover today is how to make sure that you can sustain yourself in the marketplace. So again, if you have questions about the content, if you have questions about the things that I'm talking about today, then I completely encourage you to drop your comments in the chat. All right. I'm just looking something up really quick. Yeah, I'm going to grab this so I have it ready to share with you guys. Just bear with me for a second. I realized I have a fair amount of links in here, and I probably should get them prepped to be able to drop in the chat. So I'm going to drop the editing. You can find that. You can go out and download it yourself. But I'm gonna get the links to the products that I like. Okay, I'm going to drop those in the chat. Okay, so which one is this one? Okay, this is the earbuds. Yeah, I love my earbuds. They're so cool. All right. I'm not using them today because they don't work with my computer. They should. On occasion they do, but it's hard. They're finicky. They're not consistent. It'll start off like it is, and then all of a sudden it'll conk out, and then you'll know it because your stuff messes up. All right, let's see. Earbuds. Sorry, y'all. I should have done this beforehand, but usually I don't give you guys the links like this. You just have to type them in yourself. But I think it might be easier because there's so many competitors. When we say it that way, there's so many not counterfeit. A competitor is not a bad word, but they're not just competitors. They're not just competitors, and I know this because I opening up my office downtown, and one of the things I found out really quick when I went back to order the gear that I have in this office, well, I had it's not here now. That's why I'm using this headsets today. What I found is there's a lot of people out there selling the things that, oh, hey, look, this was really popular since the pandemic, and so then what's happened is you got a lot of very closely designed, but maybe not the same quality. I'm not going to say counterfeit because kind of counterfeit is kind of implying illegalness, but it's not really illegal because they're not telling you they're the same thing. Anyway, we're going to talk about all that. So let's go ahead and get started with focus. Okay. So the reason that this is important to me the reason this is important to me to share with you is because, like I said earlier, there are a lot of people who start a podcast and they see how others do it and they think that it is so super easy to start a podcast and to make money from a podcast. And really the reality of making a podcast is very different from what we see on YouTube or what we see people advertise or what we kind of think it is. All right. So maybe back in the day, you could just come throw something together and make a lot of money off of it. But that's not really how it works anymore. Okay. So the one thing I want to ask you, if you're telling me you want to start a podcast, I am so glad for that. Because guess what? If you succeed, that's another podcast I can come be a guest on. Yeah. Okay. But really, do you need a podcast? What is your goal? What is your goal for having a podcast? And if your goal is to sell products, if your goal is to make money right away, it may not be a podcast that you want to be on. You know what is really, if your goal is to make, like I need to make $1,000 next week selling my products, then starting your own podcast is not going to be the best fit for that because a podcast is a long game. It's a strategic long game. What's probably more profitable for you is to actually go and be a guest on somebody else's podcast, right? So if you're a guest on somebody else's podcast, now you're giving your website, you're giving the link to your products, you're giving the link to your services, and that in and of itself might actually be much more quickly profitable for you than starting your own podcast. All right. Another thing that a lot of people think about when starting a podcast, and I alluded to this earlier, and then I cut myself off because this is really the place where I should be saying it. One of the things that people really think about having a podcast is they really want to just get some things off their chest. And it's always interesting because you see those podcasts that have like 4 or 5 episodes, or maybe even just 1 or 2, right? Like the one is the intro, origin story, and then the next one they get into the nitty gritty of what's got them so upset. And then you're like, where's the rest of the podcast? And it never comes back. Or it comes back like a year later, like, hey, sorry, y'all. I had a lot of family issues. I needed to take time for myself. I needed to prioritize myself. And those are all valid things. Like, I'm going to need you to prioritize yourself because being successful at a podcast is all about consistency. And, so I'm going to need you to prioritize yourself. I need you to have energy so you can go out and do what you've been called to do. It's just like these phones. We will plug in these cell phones when that little red battery starts blinking. We will plug that thing in because we don't want to miss a message. We don't want to miss any opportunities that might come through that phone. We don't want to miss a thing. But we'll let our own personal battery run all the way down until we finally crash And now, instead of actually being able to do the good in the world that we should be doing, we're having to play catch up. And one thing I will say, I look a lot younger than I am, aside from these little bitties of time for a touch up. You probably can't even tell how old I am. But the problem is, the older I get, the longer it takes to recover from a crash. So when I pull too many all-nighters, or when I run that body ragged, or when I don't feed myself proper nutrition, the crashes take longer and longer to recover from. It's the same with anything. So I know we're here to talk about podcasts, but just like anything else when it comes to wealth building, the biggest consistent thing I've seen amongst people who don't make money in their business ventures is a lack of consistency. They get started, they get excited, and then it doesn't work out as fast as they want to, and then they get discouraged, and then they stop, and then they chase after something else, and they chase after something else, and they chase after something else. Okay? Wherever you go, remember, wherever you go, you're bringing you with you. So let's be more consistent, and let's make sure that we're doing what we want to do. Okay, so that's one of the things about needing a podcast. You want to really make sure that you need the podcast. And now, another thing that a lot of people do when it comes to a podcast, another mistake, let me say that a lot of people make with a podcast is, I'm just going to say everything that I want to say, and people are going to love it, and they're going to resonate with me, and they're going to buy all my stuff. And a lot of times, or let me add on to that. And they're going to resonate with me, and they're going to buy all my stuff. And then the advertisers are going to come, and they're going to buy all the advertiser stuff, and all these advertisers, I'm going to make money. Okay. That's generally not how it works. And I said in the beginning that there are times when I will recommend, as a financial planner, I will recommend that a client does a blog, does a podcast, does a vlog, like a YouTube channel or something, Facebook Lives. I will recommend that to a client in a lot of different cases. Like, one, they really have talent and they don't realize it. And I'm like, girl, make you a live and watch how many people love it, right? But one huge use case for people doing things like this is so that they can get these things off their chest and see how it lands in the world. And then the world becomes a reflection of their feelings and how other people perceive what they're feeling and doing. And then what it can do is, if everybody's resonating with it, it can help lead them a path to resolution. If everybody's not resonating with it, it can help them see how little the people in their lives really care about them. This is not going the way I thought it was going to go today. I don't know who needs to hear this, but we on this track now. I'm going to finish this thought. Sometimes we think that our friends are our friends, and they are not our friends. And these people have been using and abusing us. They've always just been calling us up when they need somebody to talk to. They've always been there asking for our help. And then when we need somebody, they are not there. And that resentment grows sometimes under the surface, and we don't even realize it until we start expressing ourselves. And then all of a sudden, now we begin to have this channel to express ourselves. And for some of us, not for all of us, but for some of us, the act of expressing ourselves actually helps us think more clearly about the situation, and it helps bring up things that our body has been trying to tell us that we don't even know. So there can be a very therapeutic avenue to starting a podcast. However, if your goal is to make money, then we don't want to start a therapeutic podcast. If your goal is to get things off the chest, then we don't want to have the hope that it's going to make you millions next month. Am I making sense here? Give me a like or a love if you understand what I'm saying and that's making a lot of sense to you. I know it may be stepping on some toes. I'm okay with stepping on some toes. I kind of feel like the Lord has given me the gift of stepping on toes, because people pay me big money to step on their toes. Companies bring me in to step on their toes all day long to help analyze their situation and look at how they can improve their processes, their people, and their profits. And people bring me in on their financial team all the time to step on their toes and help them uncover what it is about money that they need to do better, and why they are having struggles with money. So stepping on toes isn't always an issue, but I want to make sure you actually understand what I'm trying to say, okay? Because sometimes I get so into it, I say it one way, and you're like, what is she talking about? So give me some likes or some loves if you understand what I'm saying about the difference between a therapeutic podcast and one that's going to make you money. Usually the two don't mix. Unless the therapeutic aspect is something that a lot of people are suffering from under the surface. So, for example, military sexual trauma. Nobody wants to talk about military sexual trauma. People who are willing to talk about it usually gain a very loyal following very fast when they talk about military sexual trauma. Of course, the main advertisers probably don't want to be in on that, but they do get a large following, and you can create a bit of a sisterhood with that kind of topic. Okay. Some other abuse topics, narcissism, things like that. You can play in those areas. Okay. Financial. I'm a financial planner. I primarily speak on financial empowerment. Now, financial empowerment takes a couple of focuses. I help people learn how to spend less. I help them how to make more, and I help them learn how to invest the difference. Okay. And so spending less, we look at money management. We look at tools and ways and methods to cut costs. Okay. When it comes to making more, we look at how can you improve yourself as far as being a better asset on the job. If you have a job that's paying you, how can you get promoted, make more money? So that's a lot of corporate training, your communication and leadership and diversity and things like that. Well, we can't say diversity anymore. My goodness, that's a whole nother mouthful. But things like that. We look at how you can start your own business or multiple streams of income. Okay, all of those things are under the banner of helping you win with money. And so those are things that I talk about. However, you will notice I don't have a whole lot of sponsors on this podcast. Now, if you want to sponsor this podcast, I would love for you to be a sponsor on this podcast. But guess who's always searching out financial podcasts to sponsor? Credit card companies, insurance companies, and not even the insurance companies that offer products that I would recommend, but the ones that are literally fleecing the middle class and making them poorer under the guise of strategies of the wealthy. Okay. And so I do debt free. I don't advertise. I'm not going to advertise hard money lenders. Now, if you want to talk about private lending, I teach a class on private lending. That's the one time I'll let people come in and talk about they're a private lender, they're a hard money lender or something like that, because I want a real estate education to be complete, and no real estate investing education is going to be complete if I don't talk about private lending, what it is, why people do it, whether or not you should do it, why I might recommend you avoid it in certain instances. Okay. Interestingly, the Bible recommends against being a borrower, but it doesn't recommend against being a lender. So go figure that. I still have to keep that one in prayer. Like, Lord, I don't understand this. like you're saying it's but I look at that as, like, for example, if I buy a note, that's not credit card debt. That's not ruining somebody's life. That's not a quick get rich quick scheme. That's not ruining somebody's life, right? So I have no problem buying notes or dealing in notes, but I do have a problem in a lot of these different things that have to do with debt. So there's not going to be any credit cards advertising on my podcast because they don't want somebody who's talking about get out of debt and stop using credit cards. Not a fit. Right? So you have to understand very clearly what it is that you want to get out of having a podcast and whether or not the podcast is going to serve your long-term goals. Now, the next thing that we want to talk about in our focus on what it is we're going to do, how to focus on what our podcast should be, we want to look at what are the things that we should or could talk about. Okay. There's a great concept, a Japanese concept called Ikigai, which is basically you're looking for the intersection of what the world needs, what you can be paid for, what you're good at, and what's the fourth one? I don't know. I used to teach it before I found out it was a whole Japanese theory. I was so embarrassed when I found out, like, man, I've been teaching that for years. I didn't know somebody else had made it a thing. Glad I didn't try to, because I sure would have gotten sued. But let me think. It's what you're good at. Okay, if you know, drop it in the chat, because I'm drawing a brain fart right now. It's it's what you're good at, what you can be paid for, what the world needs. And I think the other one is like what you actually are passionate about. Okay. Because you can be good at something you're not passionate about. Like my son was really good at soccer. He was not passionate about soccer. He was passionate about football. He's really good at football too. But anyway, that's going to be the start of where those things intersect is probably going to be a good start for your podcast, depending on the answer to number one. What is it that you want? And do you even need the podcast to accomplish that goal? I should probably add that to the slide for next time I teach this. I was like, what do you want the podcast for? Let me tell you what your podcast probably shouldn't be about, okay? No, wait. I still have more to say on what your podcast should be about. All right. So some other things that you might find that your podcast could be about is something you're interested in, but you don't have expertise yet. What? JJ Conway is telling me to start a podcast on something I don't have expertise in yet? Well, starting a podcast is a great way to get interaction with people who are experts in the areas that you want to be an expert in. So if you want to be an expert business person, you could start a podcast catering to people who maybe are like you were 10 or so years ago, or catering to people who have your same goals and desires and other or whatever lane of audience you want to serve. And you can bring in business experts. Maybe you are a first time mom and you're like, I really want to do some kind of podcast on mothering, but I don't know the first thing about mothering. And I'm either not connected to my own mother, or she wasn't a good role model, or she's already passed away, or I don't have friends who are moms yet. I'm late 20s or early 20s, and the rest of my friends are still single and carefree, right? Like whatever the thing, I want to start a mommy blog, a podcast, but I don't have any mom experience. Well, you bring in other moms. Maybe you want to take your photography. You like taking pictures. People have told you you've got a good eye. You don't have the money for the big equipment yet. You don't have the money to advertise and get into the big gigs yet. But maybe you start a photography podcast and you bring in people who talk about photography and help you get better. Okay. So there's all kinds of, so don't let the lack of experience, I think that's how I want to say it. Don't let the lack of experience on something that you are passionate about and that you seem to have a talent for, even though you haven't had the experience yet, don't let that stop you from having a podcast or launching a podcast on that topic. All right. So what shouldn't your podcast be about? This is the one that's really, really tough. This is tough because I started my podcast. I started my stuff because I had stuff to say and I thought people were going to want to hear it. And what I discovered really quick is they didn't want to hear it. They kind of did. Some did. But really, people care about themselves and they care about the things they need. And I'm such an odd duck that a lot of the things that I needed weren't things that they needed. And so, I could have a podcast full of everything that I need, but I wouldn't have but two followers. Now, if you're my, John Deloney has a podcast and he says, I shout out to my OG 17 listeners, two of those were my mom and dad, right? If you're one of my OG 17 today, I love you and I appreciate you because, I really didn't know what I was doing when I got started. And I probably said a lot of stuff that didn't serve very well, but thankfully you supported me and we have grown and grown and grown together. Woo, I appreciate you. But what your podcast shouldn't be about, if you want to actually make money from your podcast shouldn't be about just your needs. It needs to be about what the audience needs. And so that means you have to decide who your audience is. You have to decide who the audience is. And then you have to decide whether or not you're going to, wait, that didn't come out right. You have to decide who the audience is, but you also have to evaluate whether that audience was going to serve your long-term goals and purposes. So y'all have heard me talk about this when it comes to starting my business. My initial goal was to go to the church world. The church world didn't want to have it. I don't know why the church world didn't want to have it. I got some ideas, but that's not what we're talking about today. But for some reason, it was very difficult for me to get into churches to teach financial habits. So then I said, well, I'm going to go after single mothers because I became one. Crazy story that ended me up with a divorce and $845,000 of debt and trying to figure out how to be life as a military single mom. I'm going to go help the single moms. Yay, me. Well, guess what? Single moms are often broke. And while there is a lady out there who has a brand called Wealthy Single Mommy, and she started, she was one of my favorite FinCon speakers when I was trying to figure out what it's going to take for me to be a FinCon speaker. And she talked about how this is what I want to be. I'm a single mom, didn't plan that. But now that I am a single mom, I want to be a wealthy single mom. And so I'm going to start a blog. I think she did a written blog for single moms. And this is not advertising. She's not paying me to say this. And I don't even know if her blog's any good anymore, right? This is years ago that I met her. But she was like, this is what I want to be. And so this is what I'm going to write about. And if I want to make money, I want to attract people who have money. And most single moms are broke. And I was like, I remember those days of trying to market the single moms. And since most single moms are broke, I'm going to go after the wealthy single moms because it's what I want to be and it's who's going to pay me. And that's something that we have to evaluate. Like if you really care about salt of the earth, rural people, you have to evaluate if that's going to be your audience. You have to evaluate whether or not there's going to be enough advertisers and to drive the income you want to have. Because generally speaking, people who are out there doing the real thing, providing our food for us and taking care of our land, they're not generally speaking having the kind of money that you might think they have. Farmers tend to be. Now, ranchers, I will say, ranchers have more money than I thought when I first came out here. I was like, whoa, these folks are making some money here. But not every rancher, and certainly most farmers are not making the kind of money that they really need to live the lifestyle you and I might want to live. Okay. And so if you're going to cater to a population that maybe doesn't have money, you have to make sure that there are enough advertisers to balance that out. Otherwise, you may not have any incentives coming in to pay you. And now go back to my situation. I talk about getting out of debt. I talk to a wide swath of people. My favorite group to work in is hardworking professional women because they have a little money, they're used to working hard, and we can get them a few tweaks, and they can then turn around and become financially independent very, very quickly. But that hardworking mentality, I've had some people that have come to me on disability only, and we've gotten them financially independent in 5 years. Okay. And so we look at that population. That's the population I want. But for me, I'm not going to have the big banks coming in. I'm not going to have the credit card companies coming in to sponsor. I'm not going to name them, but there are a lot of other industries. We go to FinCon and it's like, here, sit down with all these sponsors. And I'm like, nope. So, you have to evaluate those things, and you have to make sure that your goals for having a podcast are going to be consistent with both the audience that you want to speak to and with the money that you want to make. I was okay with not making money with the podcast because I knew it was going to take a while, and I already had other streams of income. So I was okay with that for a while. Okay. But your podcast needs to be about something that other people want. And so when I say what your podcast, I had already, that's the slide. Sorry, y'all. Let me go back. Man, that was going to be so cool. When I say what your podcast shouldn't be about, I'm telling you right now, you've got to make sure, whether it's a podcast or a business idea, you've got to make sure that you have done some market analysis. And the social media platforms today make it so easy. You can do market analysis. You just pull out this phone and you do your Facebook Live, and and blah, 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 blah. And this is this and this and that and that and that. And, hit like and share with a few friends if you like what I'm saying today, or drop your point in the comments, and you will find out if people resonate. There are some videos that I make. A lot of my walking videos are testing content, or they're just rambling because I just don't want to walk. I just don't want to do it. And so it just helps me motivate to go do it, right? But sometimes I'm actually testing content, and sometimes I do a little snippet of filming content, and I'm sure it's going to go viral. Like, I'm going to have thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people watching that thing. And like one person likes it. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Kendra. Thank you. You know who you are. 1, 2, maybe 3 people like it. Nobody shares it. And I'm like, well, that didn't work the way I want it to work. But then there's other things that are just like off the cuff, or just random musings, or just something that I thought, hey, this would be fun to talk about. And it's off the charts. My number one grossing, I make the most money on YouTube, strangely enough, off of a video I made 8 years ago on how we installed the lighting, how I changed the battery in the emergency lighting in our facility, our Kingstown Family Life Center that I had. That was my church and my community center that we had in Bossier City Mall, the Pierre Bossier Mall. Like, that was a random. I filmed that simply in case I ever have to do this again, and then I just popped it out on there because, hey, I'm a real estate investor and I teach other real estate investors, and maybe somebody wants to watch it. That is still my number one grossing video on YouTube. It gets several thousand views a month. Just like, well, okay. So you want to make sure you put something out and you want to test the audience, and you can do it for free. You can go on Facebook Live, you can go, YouTube's free. All these different things are free. I would suggest you go where you have a lot of interaction already. But you don't want to spend all this time and money to set something up, and you get all the banners and all the cool things behind you, and you get the coffee mug with your show name on it and the t-shirt with your show name on it. Let me do a plug, JuneteenthLegacy.com. This is this year's shirt. You can still get one. I'm shipping a bunch out tomorrow, so you should still be able to get them in time for the conference kickout Wednesday. You know, you want to make sure you've tested the market. Okay, I think I've beat that point home, so let's go ahead and move on now to the next point, which would be what to do. So once you've decided what you're gonna do, now you've got to figure out how to record it. And so this is really one of those things, like, I really like you to test the concept before you spend a lot of money. And these phones today, they're amazing. They produce 4K video quality. I mean, it's going to burn up a lot of memory, but they produce 4K video quality. And if you get the right recorders, they are amazing. So I'm actually going to show you this today. I don't have any almost everything I do is affiliate links. If you haven't been with me very long, you wouldn't know that. But almost everything that I do is affiliate links. But these two, I don't have affiliate links with. They are just what I use. And so I wish that my Android one was on iPhone, because it's the best recorder I've ever had. This is called, let's see. Wait, how can I do this where you can see this? This is called HiQ Recorder. HiQ Recorder. Okay. And I bought it was like $5 like 8 years ago. I bought the upgraded version, right? The pro version. And that is something that I have recorded so many classes, so many podcasts, so many, all the things with, okay, is the HiQ Recorder. All right. The one that I've been using on iPhone, I still haven't found an amazing solution, because I'm starting to use my Bluetooth more, and neither phone seems to have a really great Bluetooth solution. HiQ used to back in the day, you could record phone calls with it. And I guess privacy laws or something got involved, and now they don't do that anymore. But I used to record all my phone calls after that car accident that ended my military career, because I wanted to make sure I remembered. Okay. So the HiQ Recorder, and then on the iPhone, this is one that a speaker friend gave me, told me about, not gave me, is this. Can you see it there? Uh-oh. What I do? Okay, can you see it there? Is called, oh, that's really hard to see. It's called Voice Recorder. I want you to see the icon so you get the one I'm talking about. There's so many duplicates out there. Okay, Voice Recorder Pro. Okay, when you get into it, it looks like this. All right. That's not really a really good screenshot, but just so you know what you're looking for. All right. I record, and like on the, I use my HiQ Recorder every time I broadcast, every time I do an interview. This is my backup recorder. It's that good. Okay. And this one here, if you plug a microphone in, it's amazing. It's so without a microphone. Okay. But if you put a microphone in, you get that crystal clear microphone podcast sound. This one, you may, depending on your situation, you know, when my computer was conked out and I didn't have my own space to do this in, I would go to the car, pull out my John Maxwell books, and use the HiQ Recorder. Okay. So the biggest thing is we want to get started. And if you, and you want to get started with something you have that's going to get the job done. Now, if you don't have a problem with spending money, I'm going to give you some recommendations on different things that you could use. But a lot of times people are starting because they need more money. So I want you to be able to make some money first. Okay. And I want you to remember with this, there's a lot of things that people do, but there's no one right way. That's what we say when we say Norway. No one, N for no, one, O for one, R for right, way. So remember to bring some Norway into your decision making. There's no one right way to this. There's what works and what doesn't work for you. And it may be different from what works and doesn't work for somebody else. Okay. And so you can tell a difference when you hear some of the podcast things. Like, for example, I'm going to see if I can pull this up. I am so happy with our new studio. Actually, while that's coming up, I'm going to show you the other, stop screen. I'm going to show you the other recording thing that I use. And this is going to be crazy, but if you have a good computer, then you can actually use the software that I'm going to recommend later. Let's see, window, let's get Audacity. Okay. Share Audacity. This is a program called oh, it's not showing you the big screen. Okay, this is a program called Audacity. And it's not showing the welcome screen. Let me see if I can redo that. Stop screen, because I want you to see the welcome screen so you know what you're looking for. Share screen, window. All right, it's not doing it. So not Chrome tab. Oh, let's try. Oh, that's dangerous. That's always dangerous, but I'm going to do it anyway. Oh, it's dangerous. I'm going to share my entire screen, y'all. Okay, can you see that Audacity? It's got a blue headphones with a orange and yellow thingy in between it. Oh, wow, that's crazy. Okay, let me go back to it. Hopefully y'all can see it, because I can't see it on my StreamYard when I do it that way. All right, so let me go back here and stop that screen. Hopefully y'all saw that, okay? But Audacity, you can record into that as well, okay? It's a free download. We'll talk more about that later, because it's one of the editing software that I love. Okay, slide. So, oh yeah, no, wait. Another thing I'm going to show you. I'm talking about quality. I am not going to attempt to play this now because there's all these video interactions, and lately YouTube has not played well with StreamYard. Lately, when I've done YouTube or any other kind of video broadcast, when I do it, my StreamYard blanks and I can't see what you're seeing. Okay, so oh, look at that face. Look at that face. They always pick the wonkiest faces. Like, look, like I'm sitting here smiling, I'm loving life, but they always pick the wonkiest faces as the cover. Oh my goodness. Okay. So if you go on my YouTube, this is at JJ Knows the Way. You go into my YouTube, you can see we're testing out the new studio. You will hear a huge difference in the recording quality of what we're doing right now and what we're doing in the YouTube studio. I mean, in the new studio. Okay. My new office downtown. Okay. I love my new office. It's right on the square in Stephenville, Texas, right above Cross Timbers Fine Arts. The people there that are in that little group of offices, they're all fantastic. The landlord is amazing. Like, I just love my new office. And when I heard the sound, I almost wanted to cry, because before I got this computer, that's the sound we had in our podcast with my setup. But then that computer conked, and I could never find another computer that worked the same. I know it's ridiculous, but it's just how it was. I just couldn't find one that was the same. And so we used what we used, and it was good enough. It was good enough. This recording quality right here is good enough to still be on iTunes. It's good enough to be on all the different platforms that I'm on, but it's the bottom tier of what I would want to do. And I'm very much looking forward to recording more in the new studio. And in moving things into the new studio, I found my other mic that can go in here, but this computer doesn't work. So we're looking at pawning this computer off on the teenager who's about to go to college, and then I will go and buy something else. But I'm not going to just buy one. I'm going to design one with an audio expert so that it can work in the space. But yeah, so you don't want to spend a lot of time and money and effort until you know what's going to work for you. And honestly, let me tell you, one of the first things that you might want to buy might just be a simple headset, a simple headset. Okay. So let me go back to that slide. Let me go back to the slide. I want you to focus on what you have and what you can get easily to get started and test the market. Okay. You've got to test, because you don't want to put, like I recorded, y'all gonna laugh at this. Let me get off of this for a second. I recorded 8 months of episodes before I actually launched. And the only reason I actually launched is because I had something of a podcast that was like a weekly call-in. It was called Maxwell Mondays. And I would still be doing Maxwell Mondays, except that John Maxwell during the pandemic started his own Maxwell Mondays. And I compete with Maxwell Mondays against John Maxwell. So then we just switched to Mindset Mondays. But the very first podcast that I had wasn't even a podcast that was out and about. It was just to my subscribers. And every week you got a Mindset Monday teaching that was taught on free conference. I would literally call the phone into freeconferencecall.com. And because free conference call used to, today you can do it with just one phone, but it used to require two. I would use my home phone. Y'all, this is how bad it is. I would use my home phone to dial in as a participant so I could record the session on my cell phone. And that's when I got good. See, I wasn't good at first. I was just doing that and I was teaching and it became a thing. And then when it came time to do an actual podcast that was going to be distributed on iTunes and Google Podcasts and all the things, Amazon, I got scared. And I had 8 months of 3 times a week content. And I just didn't want to put it forth. Even though my Maxwell Mondays were really successful, I was scared to death. Okay. You don't want to do that, but you at least maybe want to have 6 to 8 episodes if you're doing a weekly, maybe 15 episodes if you're doing more than that. You want to at least have a month's worth of content so you can A, make sure that this is going to work for you and you're going to be able to be consistent, and B, so you have some backups just in case. So when you're ready to actually record, here's where I recommend you get started. If you don't have the money to get the nicer things I'm going to recommend, here's the first thing that I'm going to recommend you get started. These are, no kidding, the premier earbuds that you get on the checkout line at Walmart. Okay. That's what I am using right now. Because something is going on with my $200 camera with the amazing audio card that for some reason it's just all garbled. So I was like, we're not taking any more chances. We are going to use the earbud that started it all. And that's the earbud. That's the earbud that started it all. Okay. And so that's the reason that I'm bringing that in, is just so you know. Of course, now that I say that, I went back to check my settings and I'm not using the microphone. So I'm going to, so embarrassed. Go ahead. And I'm going to switch that. And y'all tell me if you notice a difference in quality, because hopefully, since nobody's complained about not hearing me well, hopefully there hasn't been a problem with the camera. But we have had problems in the camera up till in the last 2 weeks with different interviews I've been on. Okay. So these are the earbuds. This is literally at the checkout at Walmart. And I bought a pair of earbuds through Walmart. And the very first set that I got, it was the same thing, but it had a little diamond in a little rhinestone in here. And I didn't even know that from the Walmart.com. I was just in a rush traveling every week and I needed new earbuds. And then I found out they were really good for recording. So yes, I bought a bunch of these and they wear out fairly soon. You know, they don't last more than maybe about a year, maybe 6 months, but that's because I travel a lot. And I keep them in my bag. And when I need to make a quick recording, these are what I use. Okay. So seriously, you don't have to spend a lot of money to get started. Now, if you have some more money to get started, let me grab this, and you can find a good Bluetooth recorder. You can try the earbuds. Okay. I'm going to drop that link in the chat. These are the earbuds that I use. Now, these are all Amazon affiliate links. Okay. Keep in mind, I might be compensated, not always, but I'm often compensated like a penny or a quarter for any purchases you make through the links that I share. Okay. So these are the earbuds that I use. I love these earbuds. Not only are they good for noise cancellation, they're great for if you play things while you sleep. They don't hurt your ears as bad. They're also very good for recording if you have a Bluetooth recorder. A lot of cameras that you might a lot of phones that you might record on, and a lot of laptops that you might record on don't always have a Bluetooth capability. But if you do have a Bluetooth capability, then these earbuds are amazing. And sometimes I will use the earbuds through my phone to record audio in Zoom. Like if I'm traveling and I don't have access to my home setup, and maybe I forgot my earbuds, or I'm in a place where I've left my laptop bag with this at home. This, you can't see it if you're listening to the podcast, but my wired earbuds, my wired headsets. I don't know what we call these now because they are earbuds, but they They're not wireless earbuds. So wired earbuds, okay? Maybe I've left those in maybe I've left those in the hotel room in my laptop bag, but I'm out and about and I've got my Bluetooth headsets. And sometimes I will actually record through Zoom. If you don't have any other effort, Zoom is free for 40 minutes. Free 40-minute account on Zoom. All right. So you can do that to record as well. Zoom doesn't do very good video yet, though. So be mindful of that if you're going to do video. But this is the headsets that I get. Let me put them back up. This is the headsets that I use, the Bluetooth headsets that I use when I'm using Bluetooth. Okay. And I am going to tell you, I would not get the used, because I know I've had to return them. Like my husband buys the warranty from Best Buy. So I don't buy these on Amazon. We get them through Best Buy. I would just go ahead and get them new. And I would actually get them through something like Best Buy, because if they ever, if something happens, well, actually, no, I can't even say I can't endorse Best Buy, because the pair that I've had now, I think I've had them for like 2 years and nothing's happened to them. But before then, they got a little waterlogged and I had to take them back to Best Buy, and it's a $30 copay and you get a new set. Okay, we'll just move on. Let's just move on. Let's move on. Okay, so now I told you about the wired headset mic. Okay, the wired headset mic. That's a great way to get started, and you don't have to spend that much. Now, I will say, let me go back to that Amazon slide. Not Amazon slide, that Walmart slide. Okay, I will say I have had other cheap mics that don't work as well as these premier ones. So if like the Skull Candy and some of the other ones that you might buy, they're like $7 or $10 or even $20. I don't know what is the difference between them and this, because this one's so cheap, but this particular one has worked for me for a very long time. And the other ones that I've had, they haven't always worked for me. Okay. So I just want to caution you on that. You're like, oh, well, she says get a $6 one. Well, I'm going to go get the $20 one. Well, I didn't find the $20 ones to work as well. Okay. But if you've got a little bit more than $20, this is, oops, not me. Here we go. This is the first mic that I upgraded to when I bought a mic. Okay. So I'm running Shure. I'm running Shure's right now in the new studio. But the Audio Technica ATR 2100, that's the first mic that I ever used when I bought a mic. Okay. It's great. It's great for a couple reasons. It's going to give you that professional sound, and it's going to, hold on a second. I thought I had it here, but actually that's the iRig. It's going to give you some great sound quality. You're going to sound professional enough to be on all the platforms, and you can even use that for high level quality recording. Let me drop that link in here. Audio Technica mic, ATR 2100 mic. Okay. One of the things that I do like, it's still thinking. Okay, hold on. Let me go back to it. One of the things that I like about the ATR 2100 mic is that inside the mic, where the mic ends, it has two different kinds of plugs. You can both use your traditional audio mic with it, like the three-pronged mic that you cord that you can put in. Let me say that again, because I think I just biffed that. If you look, I'll see if I can circle it on the screen here. If you look at the bottom where the plug goes in the mic, a lot of microphones have this three-pronged audio cable that you put in. I don't know what they're called, but that's what they tend to be. Okay. And they're three-pronged and they're a big fat thing. This one has that, but it also has, and this is what it comes with, it also has a USB plug. So you can plug this directly into your computer. Now, your computer has to actually like it, because my computer doesn't like it. My computer that I have now is the same computer I used to have, just a newer version. Nope. It doesn't like the mics. It doesn't like the cameras. It doesn't like any of the things. I had to buy all new stuff, and we still never found a great solution. We just found an okay solution. Gee, I don't know why that comment is not posting. Well, that stinks. I'm trying to share with you guys this Amazon link, but it's not posting. I don't know if y'all can see it. I don't see it when I click the comments. I don't see it. Oh, There it goes. Like now it's on there twice because I kept doing it. Okay. Well, it's all good. It's all good. Okay. So this is a great mic to go ahead and get started with. And then the other great thing that I like about this mic is not going to pick up everything everywhere. Okay. So if you are in an environment, in fact, let me see if I can pull up something that's going to show you the difference in these. Okay. So if you're in an environment that is really noisy, okay, I'm trying to look up something real quick that I can show this to you rather than try to explain it to you, okay? Because um it can be easier just to see it. Pattern. Let's do images, okay? Let's do images. I like this image. Let's bring that up. Okay. All right. Let's do share. Let me pull that out. Can I make it bigger? Okay, there we go. No. Really? I hate how I have to do this every time. Every time I will go to these websites, I have to go and redo my cookies. Like it's like they're waiting for us to trip up. That's what it feels like. Waiting like, oh, if we keep making them have to do this over and over and over, they're going to get to a point where they just go ahead and click yes, accept all, just to get the screen off, and then now we got him, right? Okay, so let me show you this with the mics. Okay, share screen. Yeah, I want you to see this. Okay, so these are the different patterns of the mics. Okay, the Audio Technica 21 ATR 2100 and a lot of other mics, they have this little cardioid pattern. Okay, they have a cardioid pattern, and make sure you guys can see that. Okay, that first one. So if you are sitting where the sound is captured, that's where you're going to have the best sound. But if you're sitting out here where the sound isn't captured, it's not going to get picked up on your mic. Okay. If you have an omnidirectional mic, there are certain places you might want to have an omnidirectional mic, but you're not going to want to have that in your podcast if you got 2 kids and a cat and a dog running around. Okay. Now, everybody's situation is different. And if you can't find the right kind of mic and you just go get one for $10 out of Walmart, this is probably what you're going to get. Okay. But an omnidirectional mic takes input from all the different directions. So what that means is it's going to pick up everything. With a cardioid mic, it's not going to pick up everything. That's what I like about the ATR 2100. Now you might say, well, JJ, what about your wired earbud mic? Well, this one is not going to pick up sounds too far out unless they're super loud. Okay. So it's also a form of filtering, even though this is somewhat omnidirectional. It's not the direction doesn't last very long. It doesn't come out very long. But if you live like I do back here, you've got the garbage trucks going, you've got you got whatever other trucks go. This is Texas. Everybody's got to pick them up truck. Okay. You got trucks going, you got beep, beep, beeping, furniture delivery, blah, 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 whatever. Sometimes you got neighbors mowing the yard. You can only soundproof it so much, right? You want to make sure that you get a mic that's gonna help you if you're gonna spend the money. All right. You don't have to get a mic. You absolutely don't have to buy a mic unless you like, oh, this is really good and I want to sound like the big dogs. Okay. So now I'm going to show you something else when it comes to gear. I'm not here yet. Okay. So I'm going to show you something acknowledging that I'm not there yet. Okay, so let me just pull it up for you real quick. Okay. Again, this is something I should have had pulled up before we started. I forgot. So when I built these slides, I built them last year and I forgot that I hadn't updated the graphics of the different equipment. Okay. So, let me, oops, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Just give me a second. It's just going to take another second because I want to show you all these cameras. Oh, where is it? Is it in my cart? Nope. Where is it? Okay, I want to show you guys this as well. Open that in a new tab. I want to show you all this. Open a new tab. Where's my oh, it's not Canon, it's Sony. Did I type the wrong thing in? I did. That's what it was. Sony camera. Sony SV. Where is it? Oh, it's not coming up. It's not coming up. It's not coming up. But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to, I'll just have to talk you through what I want to do. Because these are what people use that make the big money on their podcasts. But if it's not coming up, then that's not going to help us anywhere. But I'm going to show you guys, I'm at least going to show you guys this stuff. Share screen. Share screen. Chrome. Okay. All right, there we go. Share. This is the microphone that I'm running in my studio. Okay. This is the microphone that I'm running in my studio right now. So when you go out to that YouTube, y'all remember that YouTube channel where I showed y'all the video you could look at? Let me pull that back up. It's funny. I don't type the Pastor JJ Conway one very often, but it always defaults to that one. It always defaults to that one. All right. I don't want that. I want that. Okay. So are you guys seeing YouTube? Are y'all seeing? Oh no, you're still seeing Shure. Wait, how do I get you on YouTube? Do I have to stop and start again? I gotta start and stop again. All right, let's do this. Okay, share screen again. Share it. YouTube. Okay. So if you go down to this video, this live stream on testing the new studio. Okay. This live stream, let me make it bigger. Hey everybody, it's JJ Conway. I just finished and I can't see anything anymore. But if you look at this one here, what I'm running in this studio is going to be the Shure. So let me close that one out. And I will go back and show you that Shure again. I don't have an Amazon link for it. Okay, share. All right. That's the mic that I'm running there now. You don't need to spend that much money, but if you wanted to, you can. Okay. I'm really sad that my Sony is not in here, but I don't have it, but that's okay. I'm just going to have to go without it. The other thing you might want to consider, let me stop that and show you this other one. The other thing you might want to consider as gear that you might enjoy is an isolation chamber. And I wouldn't recommend getting this one. I just realized I screenshotted the wrong one. Okay, the one you want, it is this one from this company, but you want the one that comes with the stand, not because you need all the extra stuff, but because the one with the stand comes with feet. Okay, the one with the portable kit comes with feet, so you can do it on the desktop, whereas the one by itself does not come with feet. Okay, so this one does not come with feet. So this does not sit on your table. You might think that it could, and you could try doing it upside down, but with this metal on your table, that gets really, really noisy in your execution. Okay, so you're going to want the one that has the better feet. Okay. All righty. Okay. So those are just some things to consider, but you don't really necessarily need that. And you may find that you don't have the money for that. You may find that you don't have the money for those extra pieces of thing right now. Well, maybe you can find
some soundproofing panels. Okay. This was a gift to me. This is a very expensive brand that they use in like band halls and things like that. This is called Purdue Acoustics. So if you go into an auditorium and they have the big panels like this on the wall, um, they're very expensive, but at the end of a trade show, the people that were selling it didn't want to take it back home and ship it back home, so they just gave it away. And I was very happy to get a few pieces because they really are very, very nice, and they don't absorb all the sound, but they absorb some. So you can go to IKEA. They have $30 sound. Well, if you're going to buy a $30 sound panel, you could get the isolation chamber I just talked about on Amazon, but they have pretty ones. They have prettier ones, let's say that way. But you also have some $4 or $5 ones at the Home Depot or Lowe's, or I think IKEA might have some of those too. But I know the pretty ones were like 30. But you can get yourself some sound panels. They have some phenomenal sound panels on Amazon that I wanted to get. It was about $60, and they're really beautiful. In fact, if you've ever seen the videos that I've made where it looks behind me like I've got a gold and turquoise swirly, I think those are Marriott properties. I can't remember if those are Marriott's or if they're Hilton's, but one of those big chains has used a lot of those in their rooms. And you know what I found out? They're sound panels. They're not just pretty pictures, they're sound panels. So there's a lot of different gear that you can get, that you can make, and you can use that to cut down any sound. When I first opened up Architects Leadership Institute in Shreveport, Louisiana, my office downtown was in a co-work space, and they had sound booths that were basically a small room, kind of like a phone booth, for those of you old enough to remember what those were. And then they lined the walls with carpet to deaden the sound. Amazing. It worked amazing. Okay. So these are the kinds of things that you can use in your setup for your podcast. Now, do you have to use those kinds of things? You don't have to use them, especially if you've got a decent mic or you've got a closed off space that you could do that in. Okay. So that's how to capture. So I know this has been so much fun for me. I'd love to see if you have any questions that you can put them in the chat. What I'm going to do now is bring my slides back up. What we have covered to this point is we've covered whether or not you need a podcast, how to decide your goal. Once you decide your goal, how to evaluate whether a podcast is going to help you with that goal. We've talked about how to record it, what software you might use to record it, what recorders you might use to record it. Then we've talked about what gear you might use to record it. And so then now we're going to talk about the editing, because it's not always just about the recording. Now, sometimes I will record something and it's happening more and more. Like, I hate to do it because I promise I spent a year in Toastmasters and was even a committee leader, and I achieved all these achievements. And I know you're not supposed to say and sometimes I do anyway. And so I like to cut those things out. But I also find that sometimes a more natural way of speaking actually helps you make more money. So I don't stress about it. Well, one thing that I do lately, because we've got to get the content out. I've got some interviews that recorded a year ago that still haven't come out because I got so interview happy. I'm going to explain that in a second, how that can happen. I'm going to give you the sources where you can find so many guests that you can record hours and hours and hours of interviews and then be like, oh my goodness, I got to do something with them, right? And so I'm finally training up my son on how to actually edit everything so I don't have to do it and I'm not the roadblock. I've tried to hire people and it's fizzled out and fallen through. And finally, I'm just like, you know what? You want something done right, get it done yourself. And I got free labor. I mean, I have kids who I'm compensating properly for their time and effort to help work on this thing. And they can't tell mama no. Yes, they can, but they're not, because they're great kids. They believe in the family business and because I pay them. Oh my goodness. Okay, while I bring up my slide, I laugh about that because the very first involvement in my business that my kids had to have is whenever I teach these kind of classes, they have to cut off their Xbox. And so I finally told them that every time I sell, my kids get 20% of whatever I sell. Why? Because they have to give up the Xbox, they have to give up Netflix, they have to give up all those things so mommy can do her show. So when you buy, you are supporting some great kiddos. All right, let me go back to the slides. So we're going to talk about how to edit. And editing is not as daunting as you might think it is. I promise you it's not. It's not as daunting as you might think it is, okay? There's a lot of different things out there. The recorder that I showed you on iPhone, that has an editing capability built in. I haven't really used it because I prefer to use Audacity. I'm at this age where like I already know what I'm doing on Audacity and it's fast and it's easier. So I just do that, right? But I also know that it takes time to learn new things. So I am in the process of learning new things. But I have a couple different ones I'm evaluating on the iPhone that will allow you to edit on the go, which is kind of cool. I like Audacity, which I showed you, because it is, well, one, it's free. And two, it works. It really works. So I'm going to give you a quick demo on that. Just a quick demo, not a long demo, but just a quick demo. If you want a long demo, you need to go out right now to the link in my bottom here. Hold on, in my bottom, that really didn't come out right. Glad thing the teenager's not listening. Calendly.com/JJ Conway/podcast workshop. In fact, let me see if I can drop that down in the chat for you so that you can book that if you want more of what I'm showing you, but applied. It's not going to be more than what I'm showing you because we're going to look at your specific case, right? And then we're going to pick and choose the things that work for your specific case. But if you want more on Audacity editing, then yeah, I'm going to want you to go ahead and do that. So let me go in here. I'm going to pull up. Yeah. Okay. And I am not even going to fight with this today. I'm just going to open up the first one that's on here. It's a nursing home playlist. And this is what we use. I do a nursing home Bible study on Sundays. And so let's go ahead and stop sharing those. And we're going to share Audacity, share screen, window, Audacity, share. Okay. So what you should be seeing now is you should be seeing a bunch of audio files. Okay. So when I have my podcast that comes in, it's going to be, if it's recorded in stereo, it's going to have two double lines like this. This is two lines. This is stereo. So it's right and left. Now, if you want to record something that has a different sound in the right versus the left, you can do that here. Okay. A lot of times, if you get karaoke or other kinds of music, the way they've done it is they've recorded the vocals on one track and they've recorded the music on the other track. Okay. And so let me go in here and make this a little bit bigger so that you can kind of see what's going on here. All right. All right. This is the soundtrack. This is the soundtrack of each of these. And you can go in and edit. Now you'll notice here, I've got a line here. These are two different songs. So I grabbed this song from these people and I grabbed this song from these people and I added them together. Now let's just say I've talked and talked and talked. Let's pretend this is me talking. Actually, let me just see if I can find a real one because that's really what I meant to have. I forgot that I did this. And so sometimes with Audacity, okay, let me stop this share because I realize I'm going to show you all my whole files. Oh, no, you can't. No, I'm not showing you my file structure. You can't see that. Okay, good. I was going to say, oh, no, I don't want to show everybody the file structure because last time I did that, I accidentally showed my list of clients because I accidentally clicked the client folder. And it was like, oops, like, you know, which is why we don't do that anymore. We do something different now. Okay, let me go into podcast, Audacity files. Okay, this is an old one. Let's pull that one up. Oh, that one doesn't have it. Oh. Okay, foiled. Okay, what I was trying to show you all. Okay, so let me do this. Let me get back to that and close out these other ones that I was opening. What I was trying to show you is the layering, but we collapsed down so many things to try to streamline it. It's not coming. Let's see. No, I guess I pulled all those off into the archive now because we already got them. Oh, okay. So I'm just going to import some audio. Okay, I'm going to import audio. I'm going to go. Can y'all see me doing this? Can y'all see when I click that? Can y'all see that dialogue? I don't know if you can. I'm going to file just in case you can't, or if you're listening to the part of the podcast, I'm going into file. I'm going to go into import audio, and I'm going to import. Let's see. What are we going to import? Okay, I'm going to import this audio. And this is music, okay? This is music. Okay, so this is music. So now what I can do with this music, this is not going to work. Let me go back and open that up. Oh my goodness, this is what happens when you do things in public. Okay, so let's do let's open up that one. Okay, so let me show you all that. Let me close this window, stop screen. Let me show you all this other one. I really wish it would just actually, like, if I open it up in Audacity, I'm surprised it doesn't just stay in Audacity, right? But it's like each one is their own window. Okay, so this is a new intro. Okay, can y'all hear that? Okay, so that's a little intro. So now I can say, well, I want some music behind it. I can import some audio. Okay, and I can import some audio, and it's going to add it as a separate track. So now watch what happens. Okay. See, look at that. You hear that music? Okay. Now, that's not music I would probably use for this. But you can take that music and you can grab it and you can make it smaller. You can make it you can make it not as loud is what I mean to say. You can do some things to edit with it. You can cut and start and stop. So let me go into this text. I mean the text. Let me go in here. I hope you guys can actually hear this playing. What? Did that say fresh celery? It sure did. Oh, this is fortuitous. Can y'all hear what that was? First it was National Celery Month, and then it said national. This first little bit where the line is, that first little bit says, do we really need a National Celery Month? Well, you know what? I think we can leave that one in there. This one here is, do we, and national, what is it? Let me say it again. National Records and Information Services Month. So I'm like, you know what? That might offend some people if I question that, especially some clients that I might want to work with. So I'm just going to grab that, and I'm just going to delete it. Delete. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure it sounds good. Okay, so I need to get rid of the flashbacks. Let's get rid of flashbacks. Let's see. Let's make sure I'm getting rid of the right thing. Ooh, nope, I'm going to need more. I'm going to need to get rid of more of that because it looks like I go on a little bit of a rant. Let's find out where that rant ends. Okay, so we're gonna keep the part about the business. All right. Let's keep the part about the business, but I'm gonna cut out the flashbacks. I'm gonna just cut all that out. All right, I'm gonna cut all that out. Let me make sure I'm starting in the right place, that I didn't cut out too much. Okay, and you can do things like cut that out completely if you want to make sure that you can put something else in here, or put it. It'll be on the second track, but you just want to make sure before you see. I didn't take out enough, so now I see that I need to take that out. Okay, I need to take out more, so we're gonna just grab this and we're gonna take all that out. Delete. And now it should go from celery month to me getting organized. Well, Okay, now that I've done that, I say to myself, I don't like the way that joins. We're going to stop it at celery month and we're going to go and leave it. We're going to go to the really. So this should be a celery month, really, really. Okay, now hopefully y'all could hear that. If you couldn't hear that, hopefully I've talked you through because you could see it. Now what I have is a whole thing that misses a point that I probably shouldn't have ranted on in the first place. Okay, so now let me scroll in and show you. You can scroll way down into the speech pattern, even down as far as you need to go to make sure you hit it wherever it's 0. Okay, so let me go ahead and close that out. I'm not going to save it. Okay, I don't want to save it. I don't want to mess up whatever that was. But that's the software that I use. And I can take out a lot of the ums and ahs. Lately, I haven't been just because I'm trying to pump everything out. But you can take out a lot of ums and ahs and you can work it that way. Now, if you do a video is a little bit different as far as editing. So I currently use what's built into my computer. It's an older legacy Microsoft Photos. I also have access to Adobe Premiere. I get it as part of my Adobe subscription. I am still learning how to use it, to be honest with you. It's much more powerful, much more fully featured. And just like Audacity allows you to layer in the audio, the Adobe Premiere allows you to layer in video and audio effects and all the different things. So it's really quite fully functioned. I'm just still learning how to do that because more and more of my content is going towards video. Okay. And that's also something you can do with no charge. You can set up a YouTube channel, no charge. The problem isn't actually recording it or editing it. Okay. The problem is getting people to listen to it. And that takes two things. That takes distribution and that takes marketing. So let's talk about those real quick. Let's bring up those slides. Okay, in order to get people to listen to it, it's not just enough to put it out there. Okay, because you could put it out there and nobody listens to it. You could put it out there and nobody sees it. I'm always surprised at how Facebook shows me all of these advertising. Wait, this a rant I want y'all to see me all the way for. Facebook shows me all this advertising. And I will literally be on Facebook trying to see what's going on with my friends. Like if I have some downtime, because I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I post more to social media than I actually look at it, to be honest with you. But I'll sit there and I have a downtime and I'm just like looking through my friends and it'll be sponsored, recommended for you, sponsored, recommended. We think you might like what's the difference between that and recommended? And what's the difference between any of that and sponsored? They're just trying to find ways to grab you and keep you in here. And then it'll be like 20 scrolls and then I either give up or then I finally see a post from a friend that was like 3 days ago. We celebrated our anniversary and I'm like, I'm the late person, like happy anniversary 5 days later because I finally saw their thing. So the algorithm is messed up. Even today, people were talking about their new babies. They were talking about their anniversaries. They were talking about all these different things. And I'm looking at the timeline. And I'm like 2 days later, 3 days later. And then one of them was like a friend who was like last week celebrated their birthday. And I'm like, I know I said happy birthday to her on text. But I looked back at the thing and it was a week ago. And I was like, really? So there are different things you can do to try to make it more likely that people will see your content. And one of the biggest things that you can do is use a distribution system. Now, if you're just getting started and you're on social media, one tip that I have found is to go out to the type of people that represent your audience, interact with their posts and comment on their posts. And then your post is going to be more likely to be shown to them once you post it. Personally, I feel like that's a little dishonest. So I don't really do that as much as I probably should because it frustrates me when somebody comes on my thing and I haven't seen them in years. I'm like, oh, that's neat. They're posting, or maybe they send me something. And then the very next thing is an advertisement for something I have no use for, or I don't need to, or they don't ever buy none of my stuff, but they want me to buy their stuff. You don't even like my pages. You don't get a free ticket to my virtual events, but you want me to spend $2,000 buying your thing? Come on now, let's be in this together. All right, rant off. Whoop. Let's talk about distribution systems. Okay. My favorite distribution system that I use right now is Libsyn. And the cool thing about Libsyn is it allows you to distribute to all these different channels. And unlike a lot of the free platforms out there that allow you to distribute, I haven't had a lot of complaints about Libsyn. Okay. They make it easy to change your title. They make it easy to change your cover art. They make it easy for you to go back and edit previous things. And one thing that I really like is just like my blog software that I use for my blog. If you published something a year ago and you want to redo it, you can upload new audio for it, and you can leave it backdated so that it doesn't it doesn't start over. Like YouTube, you can't upload a new version. You have to upload a whole new version, but you can't upload it with the same stats from your old version. And also on YouTube, you can set something to publish in the future, but you can't set something to publish in the past. And so with Libsyn, you can set something to publish in the past. So like, for example, I have a lot of episodes that we published because they were video interviews. They were still episodes, but we accidentally put them in the wrong place. So maybe we put them on YouTube, or maybe we streamed them and they should have been episodes, but they weren't episodes on Libsyn, so they didn't go out to all of the different channels. Like I this is so funny. My second highest following is actually in India. Okay. And so we broadcast in Ghana, the Indian podcast channel, Ghana. And it's and I was very, like, they approached me and I was surprised. They were like, yeah, we got a lot of people requesting your podcast. They're searching for your podcast. So please publish to us. I'm like, hey, you ain't got to tell me twice, right? You know, money's green and the world is connected. I'm really cool with that. But it wasn't so I'm trying to take some of those things and post them on the Libsyn. Well, it's a blessing to me that I can go and say, okay, this was originally done on such and such a date. And I can set it that way. And even though it's going out today, the date in the system is back then. So like there's another couple of cases where I have a part 1, a part 2, and a part 3, and somehow the part 1 is gone. Well, maybe I didn't upload it. Maybe my son didn't upload it. Maybe the person I had hired that week didn't upload it, because I did try to hire some people for a stint there last year. Whatever happened, I want to go back and publish it, but I don't want it to be, today. I want it to be the part 1 in between the part 2 and 3 and the thing that was happening before it. Does that make sense? So I love that about Libsyn. And I know there's some other people that are looking for other places to do things, but I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it until you really need to fix it. And until those other platforms are more mature, then I'm probably going to stick with where I'm at. And that's why I recommend for you to stick with where I'm at. Or if you have something that works for you, you're welcome to drop it in the chat. But this is what works for me. And it's worked well for me since 2018. So let me show you a screenshot of that. Now, YouTube just got big into podcasting a couple months ago. They announced the YouTube podcasts. I'm still trying to flesh out what's the difference between that and what I was already doing. I'll admit I haven't put a lot of time and energy into it because I already have a pretty sizable podcast following on YouTube. And so I haven't worried about that yet. I'm still trying to get caught up, but that's something I'll address later. If you want to start a podcast and you want to do it on YouTube, now's the time. Okay. And again, YouTube is free. They just don't have all the features that I want. So that's not going to, so even though I use YouTube, that's not my only jam. Okay. Because I need those other features that Libsyn offers. Let me show you a screenshot of what you're looking for, so you know that you're going to the right place. And if you decide to give them a try, use the promo code JJ Conway. Now, I've told y'all before, almost every link I do is an affiliate link. I get like 25 cents when you sign up towards my plan. And I appreciate that. But you get 1 month free with promo code JJ Conway. All right. And you can pick and choose what you want to do. I do the $20 plan because we have 3 episodes a week. Okay. And what it does is your plan, you get all the features, whatever plan, you get all the features. But it's just a matter of how much you get. And now this is not like some other platforms. There are some platforms out there that are like, you get this much storage and you're paying us for this much storage. When you hit that storage, you're done. With Libsyn, whatever you upload in your limit, your limit starts over next month and your old stuff doesn't count anymore against your limit. It's just always there in perpetuity as long as you have as long as that channel's out there. Okay. And so if you choose the $5, that's 3 hours a month. So maybe you do a weekly podcast and it's only 30 minutes of each week. Well, on a 4-week month, that's 2 hours. On a 5-week month, that's 5 hours. Okay. You know how some weeks have 5 Mondays or 5 Sundays or 5 Tuesdays, that's 5 hours. Okay. Um, I mean, that's 2.5 hours. So, that might be adequate. We had 33 times a week, and some of those I'm better now. I'm so much better now at breaking it into about half-hour chunks. We're still not perfect on that. I know that's what I need to do to get to the next level of podcasting. It's just so much work and more planning, and I'm just not there for that yet. We will get there. That's on my goal list for by the end of the year to get to really defined times, because we're going to start broadcasting from downtown, and the public's going to be able to come in and watch, and I got to have defined times so people know when they can come and when they don't come, and so it's going to be exciting. But in the meantime, this is something to evaluate. Okay. But that's the only difference in all the plans. All the plans get all the features. Okay. So that's Libsyn. Again, you get a free 1 month with the promo code JJ Conway. All right. Hey, thanks, Cassandra. I'm so glad that you're on today. I'm so glad that you're on today. All right. Let's see. So now I said there were 2 different things that you needed to do. There's 2 different things you need to do in order to get people listening to your podcast. One is distribution. It's got to get to them somehow, and you got to get to them in however they consume it. One of the things I like about Libsyn is I haven't found a podcast platform yet that Libsyn doesn't broadcast to. And mine is like a whole page of platforms. And then there's still a whole nother page that I don't broadcast to, because every page has their own setup requirements. And some of them I just haven't bothered to do yet. But you could do Amazon and Ghana and Spotify and iPhones and iTunes and Google Podcast. Now there's a new Samsung. There's a Samsung podcast that's separate from the Google podcast. There's, I already said Amazon, but SoundCloud. I use SoundCloud for my courses. So I have a SoundCloud profile that I use for my courses. Well, guess what else goes out there? The podcasts, and they can also send it to your social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those different things. Okay. And so, all those different things you can get with a good distribution. However, that's how people get it. But now you got to make them want to get it. And the next part of that is the marketing. So it's a 2-pronged approach. You got to put your podcast where the people you want to listen to it are likely to get it. And then you got to market so that you can get them to want to know they need to listen to it. And that's one of the reasons we changed our marketing to Ladies of Wealth. People were not really understanding the concept of building wealth together the way that I thought. When I named my podcast Building Wealth Together, that was the name of our real estate investment group that we started at Keller Williams Kingstown way back in 2014, 15. And so with that, it was one of those things that we wanted to work together to buy these properties, rehab them, and work together to share them and share the profits. So we shared the effort, shared the cost, shared the profits. We were building wealth together. Okay. Over time, it morphed away from just being about real estate, and it became about other streams of income as well. And I found that we were primarily geared towards ladies. Our primary listener is actually young guys. Okay. So somebody help me understand this, because I know I'm not cute enough to pull in young guys. All right. But our primary highest demographic, and you can get these kind of statistics in a program like Libsyn. My highest demographic on both YouTube and my podcast is men 18 to 25. That's my highest downloaded demographic. But the people who pay me, these guys, they're not paying me. Their dads are not paying me. The people that are paying me are 40 plus professional women, 40 plus hardworking women, 40 plus middle and up income women. So we did some rebranding to make it Ladies of Wealth, because it's easier to market Ladies of Wealth. What are we doing with Ladies of Wealth? We are building wealth that has an impact. We are building wealth that changes lives. It's the same thing we were doing under Building Wealth Together, but now the marketing is stronger. Everybody see what I'm saying about that? That's why if you go out there, you're going to see it's Ladies of Wealth, but some of the episodes are going to still say building wealth together. So primarily with marketing, there's two things that you want to market for. You want to market to get listeners. You want to get ears in, you want to get ears listening to your content, or you want to get eyes watching your content. Okay. So that's one type of marketing. If you've chosen your audience correctly, okay. If you've chosen your audience correctly, you found a topic for your podcast that resonates with that audience, and you clearly communicate that through your title and your cover art, then it is a lot easier to find that listener simply by posting that information, or making Facebook lives, or other social media outreaches and different things like that that point people to the podcast. Okay. Making snippets of your podcast and making those into shorts on YouTube and TikTok. It's funny. Somebody came up to me. They're like, I love your TikTok channel. And I'm like, I don't think I'm doing anything on TikTok. I'm like, oh yeah, you got a lot of stuff out there, because some of the stuff that I post on other channels automatically ports into TikTok. Whoever set that up, thank you. but it's attracting people because it's short, snippy content that's branded and speaks to them and ports people to where I want them to go. The other thing that you want to do is you want to be able to market for guests. And marketing for guests is a little bit different, because what listeners want is how to solve a problem. Listeners want to solve a problem, or they want to feel better about their situation, or they want fill in the blank, whatever they want from you. What guests want is they want exposure, and they want sales, and they want to broaden their reach in their portfolio and their accolades. Okay. So I know that you cannot pay rent with exposures, right? But I have more marketing power when it comes to listeners now that my YouTube channel is over 8,000 people instead of when it was 800 people. Okay. And my YouTube channel has more marketing power at 800 people than it had when it was at 8 people. Right. And so the more reach you have, and the better able you are to communicate the size of your platform. Several thousand people here, several thousand people here, several thousand followers here, several thousand, whatever. And you're able to communicate that reach, will help you obtain higher quality guests. So now when it comes to guests, there are some things I want to show you for guests that I thought I had up. This one I thought I had prepared, but I did not. So give me another second. I'm going to show you. You know what? I'm actually not going to show you. Okay. I'm going to tell you about them. I'm going to tell you about them. But why is it not up here where it's supposed to be? All right. That's really strange. I have, and I think maybe it's the YouTube profiles. Okay, so I have 2 main groups that I go to for guests. But I'm not going to mess with it. Okay, I've got two main places that I go for guests. Hold on, let me get back to my screen where I can actually see you guys. But there's also a Facebook group that I go to, and I wanted to warn you about these not warn you about these. I wanted to tell you about these, and I wanted to warn you about all these find a guest, be a guest groups. Okay. So there's different groups out there. There's different groups out there that are called Find a Guest, Be a Guest. There's several on Facebook. There's one on Reddit that I haven't really vetted yet, but that's one that I'm going to go back to. There's one on Facebook especially that I like. It's called Find a Guest, Be a Guest. My computer is acting wonky, so I'm not going to try to pull it up, but I'm going to at least tell you about it. The reason I'm telling you to watch out is because there have been several people who've emailed me, come join my Find a Guest, Be a Guest Facebook group. And then you click on it, and it's something you have to pay for. The Find a Guest, Be a Guest that I'm talking about, there's a couple. There's a mainstream one. There's a Christian one. They don't charge. And between them and these other 2 sources that I'm going to tell you about, I haven't needed to, unless it was a high, big name guest. So if it's a big name person that I want to interview, then yes. Okay. So, when I interviewed Dr. Fraser for Juneteenth Legacy, there was a fee to that. He has a speaking fee. He has a virtual speaking fee. Okay. When I interviewed, well, anyway, sometimes I will pay for a high level guest, but if I'm looking for real, down to earth people who are like me, we're all on the same level, we're all in this together, we're trying to get something done, and we want to bring value to the clients. I don't pay for guests. Okay, I go to find a guest, be a guest, and I go to these two websites that I'm going to give you. One is podmatch.com, and the other one is matchmaker.fm. Okay, both of those were free, and between those three sources, I had so many guests and I did so many interviews that's why I have a backlog of like 6 months worth of stuff, because I was just having so much fun. And actually, that backlog is about a year old. I turned off Podmatch and Matchmaker. I turned off my profile on those and just put it in hibernation or not accepting guests or whatever it was. I turned them off because I was getting so many people, and they were great people. They weren't people like, oh, I don't want to interview you. They were great people, and I wanted to strike while the iron was hot, and I wanted to get those interviews in, and that was great. But then it's like, you got to still edit that thing, and you still got to publish that thing, and if you want things to be more perfect, the more perfect you want it, the more editing needs to be done. Okay, I've gotten a bit over the perfection because I just need to get stuff done. That's why if you've been a long time subscriber, you've been noticing I've been pumping out episodes, and they're older episodes, but I've just been pumping them out. They're not perfect. We've just been pumping them out. I want to get the backlog cleared, and I want to get fresh blood in there. Okay. And it also does a disservice to the guest. Like, I hate having to write that email. Hey, I know we recorded this a year ago, but we're just now getting to launch your interview. Do you have an updated link or anything like that you want to share with us? Okay. I really hate sending that message. So those are the three places I would recommend. Find a guest, be a guest. The Facebook group that I'm in does not require payment. There's also one on Reddit that I'm looking at. So I haven't vetted that one out yet. But the ones that I have used very successfully, high quality guests that have actually added a lot of value to my life, not just the audience's life, but actually I've learned from interviewing them. Podmatch and podmatch.com and matchmaker.fm. Okay. So that's how you find guests to be on your show. All right. I wouldn't pay to find guests unless they are really, really big name, really, really known in your field, and they are going to further your business. There are some people I've had an opportunity to pay $50,000 to interview, but that wasn't going to take my business to the next step. Like, there's other things that happen between now and then that if I had an extra $50,000, I would do for my business. Okay. There's other things I would do with an extra $100,000. I don't need to interview so-and-so super high, amazing speaker. Okay. I need what's going to move me forward next. I'm saying that because the speaker I'm working on right now is $50,000. And he's amazing, y'all. He's amazing. And it's going to really launch the brand, but I got to get all this other stuff done first, right? I got everything, you got to come correct when you plan at these big levels. So anyway, but I wouldn't do that when I'm starting out. I would start with free, and I would let it take you where you want to go, because not only will you be able to learn from the speakers, you'll get experience interviewing, and then you might decide you're not a very good interviewer. Or you might, like me, like I started out my podcast, I talked through all 3 episodes every week. And then I started interviewing people, and almost everybody that I interviewed, they're like, wow, this was really fun. Or wow, you really got me to talk a lot more than I expected. Or wow, I really enjoyed this. And I don't usually enjoy this. And it was almost always coming back to, wow, you're really good at interviewing. I had no idea I was good at that. I'm just a curious person. A lot of curious people, they grow up to be scientists, and I grew up to be a scientist, and I just love asking questions, and I like asking the question behind the question. I also like poking the bear a little bit. So those qualities make for a great interviewer. So if you want to be interviewed, make sure you keep your eye out for when I reopen my my podcast interview channel. Okay, not channel, but method for you to become a podcaster. Be an interview. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you today. I'm going to give it to you today. Look, if you're watching or listening, you're going to get a special blessing. Okay. It is calendly.com/JJ Conway/podcast guest. All right. Do not schedule anything for June or the first 2 weeks of July. I will cancel it. We are in the process of building new things on the computer, on the schedule, that in order to build them for other people to book in certain slots with different things that we're doing with my son's new school and the Power Networking Conference, I had to clear things off the calendar so it looks like there's time. There's not time. And by this time tomorrow, that time will be filled back up. And if you book your podcast guest experience at that time, it is going to be canceled. I'm just letting you know that right now. But if you are hearing my voice, you can go on out to calendly.com/JJ Conway/podcast guest. And I would be very happy to let you be one of the first people as we start back up the new season of our Ladies of Wealth podcast. How about that? You don't even have to be a lady. You just have to be a cool person. And if you're listening to me this long, you must be a cool person. Okay. So we've talked about how to plan out your podcast. We've talked about how to record it. We've talked about how to edit it. We've talked about some gear you might want to get. We've talked about how to market it, and we've talked about how to distribute it. And here's the money maker, what most of y'all came for. We need to talk about how do you actually profit with a podcast. And I've been saying all night, it's not what you think. It's really not. Most people think I'm going to talk and people are just going to, it's going to go viral and I'm going to make all this money through YouTube. Okay. First of all, to make money through YouTube, you now have to. Back when I started, you didn't have to. Back when I started with YouTube, I was making about $100 a month off YouTube with 85 people. And I was happy with those 85 people. And then they said, you know what you have to have now? You got to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours every year. Do you know how hard it is to ramp up to 4,000 watch hours? Woo, y'all, it's amazing how difficult things have become over time. And so it took me, I had about 3 or 4 years where I wasn't making any money. And, you can go out and buy traffic. You can go out and buy subscribers. Those are things that you can do. But a lot of times when we buy subscribers or buy traffic, the algorithms pick that up because there's nobody actually commenting. Nobody's really liking your stuff. And so the algorithms pick it up and they can flag your account if you're not careful. So if you decide to do something like that, if you want to buy subscribers to get to your first 100 so you can have your own personal name, I'm not going to be mad at you for that. Okay. But if you want to have a lasting brand, you got to get out there and do the work to get the people to your content. Okay. And so a lot of times what people think is going to be profitable, it actually kind of isn't. Okay. The other thing that people think is really going to make them profitable is they're going to have this amazing podcast and all these ads and sponsors are going to come out the woodwork and they're going to pay you thousands of dollars to sit at home and publish the podcast with their little ad in front of it or after it. Okay. Now let me tell you something about sponsors and such. Okay. Let me tell you something about sponsors and such. I've already talked about how, depending on what you talk about, there may not be a lot of sponsors out there willing to pay. And especially if you're in a demographic that doesn't really match the content, like, for example, me as a Black woman talking about finance and business development, that's becoming more popular. But when I got started, that was not popular. In fact, my first business mentor told me, take my own picture off my website because people didn't want financial advice they weren't looking for financial advice from a Black woman. They were looking for financial advice from an old white guy. And I was mad at him, but I'll tell you what, I took my picture off that website and watched my conversion rate increase 400%. Yes, it did. And I made that money. And then because, a lot of us have that code switchy phone voice. A lot of people didn't know I was a Black woman. They knew I was a woman because once they called me and talked to me on the phone, they knew that I knew I was a woman. But then I started getting invited to events to speak. And then people were like, "You're JJ Conway?" They weren't expecting a Black woman. So now my picture is all over the place, y'all. Now my picture is all over the place. That's for those of you coming in late, that's the Speakers Magazine June cover. That is yours truly on the cover of Speakers Magazine this month. Shout out to Pam Perry PR. All right. But you have to understand that sometimes the sponsors and sometimes the ads don't come right away. and they may not come depending on what you are doing. Okay. And so I caution you, when it comes time to, when you're really wanting to make a profit, you have to know that there are certain things that your profits come from and certain things they don't. Like, for example, if you're just getting started, the number one ad and the number one sponsor I want for your podcast is you. I want you to have something to sell people into and to create either a little bumper or just create a little copy script that you read at the beginning or the middle or the end, wherever you place it, of your podcast. The first money you're probably going to make with your podcast is selling your own stuff. Or if you have clients that come for, not clients, if you have interviewees that come in to be interviewed, if they are selling a product, always ask for an affiliate code. What is an affiliate code? I have a whole training on YouTube that you can go find and look up affiliate, how to do an affiliate. But basically what it is because I told you about it, I get a cut of what you sell. Okay. And so I showed you my Amazon affiliate codes. Let me go back up and show you it. Okay. Let me go back up and show you. I have Amazon affiliate codes. I have a Libsyn affiliate code too. I think I get like $1 or a free week or something like that when you sign up. You get a free month. I think I get like a free week, right? But these Amazon codes, these are affiliate codes. Okay. And when you type this code in and you go research this mic, if you buy the mic, I might get 20, Amazon stingy. It might be 25 cents. Okay. Let's be real. I'm not getting rich off of Amazon codes, but I'll tell you what I am getting off of Amazon codes, because my website gets 10,000 hits a month and all my links to my books and the other things are all Amazon affiliate links. Because I told you about it and sent you the business to Amazon, Amazon gives me a cut. So that 25 cents, per pop isn't much, but you multiply that by 10,000 a month, it's not bad. Okay. So if you have a guest and you don't have a product to sell, well, ask for an affiliate fee for whatever they're selling. A lot of people have affiliate fees. I have affiliate fees for my stuff. If you have an affiliate code for my Juneteenth Legacy Conference, you get 50% of whatever sells when you tell your friends about my conference and they use your link. So if we had planned this a little better, if I had done this class like a month ago, you could have had me on your podcast, or you could have had me on your Facebook Live. You could have had me on your StreamYard. You could have had me in your Zoom. I could have talked about it. We could have built you an affiliate link. And if anybody bought an upgrade to VIP, you could have had 50% of that sale. That's a way you can get paid. So I want you to have your own stuff to sell, or I want you to leverage the sales products and services of others through affiliate links. Okay. That's going to be the easiest, fastest ways to get paid with your podcast. All right. Now, you say, well, I don't have anything to sell, JJ. Well, come to my group coaching and we'll work on it. All right. You don't have to spend a lot of money to have something to sell. You may not even have something to sell, but you could build a you may not have something to sell, but you could build a lead magnet. You could build the top 5 ways to do blah, 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 and then hang that in your free MailChimp or whatever platform you use for your email. I used MailChimp when I was just getting started. I've outgrown them, but that's what I used. And it was free to the first 500 subscribers. It's free. You hang that on a link. And when they subscribe with their email and then they get your free thing, now they're in your email database, and you can build your database, and you can do what I did when I got started before it was even an official podcast. Every week, everybody on that email list got a link to download their Maxwell Monday. Their Maxwell Monday broadcast by JJ Conway. And every week they got that. And then new people came in and every week they got that. And it built a foundation that when I did have something to sell, now I had people who knew, liked, and trusted me who were willing to buy. And that's really where the gold is in your podcast. Now, look, I know I have thrown a lot at you today. Okay. I have thrown a lot at you today, but if I want to make sure we hit this profit understanding really hard. Profiting from a podcast requires consistency. It requires consistency. It requires you to show up every time you say you're going to show up. I don't want you to make the mistakes that I made in my past. A quick Maxwell Monday where I'm just reading a book and telling you my thoughts on the book, that's easy to do. But that's not a huge marketable following if you're trying to speak in your lane. Like my name wasn't Maxwell. Okay. And so it's okay to start off leveraging somebody else's name and leveraging somebody else's expertise. But at some point, you got to do yours. But you don't want to do like I started off doing, which was, oh, I'm going to have these marathon. I'm going to do every day. I'm going to do this and this and this and this. And then you find out that you can't do it. You have to be consistent, and consistency is a muscle like every other thing that we do in life. You got to get those reps in. You are trying to improve your health, and the easiest way to start improving your health, if you've been sedentary, is to get out and walk for 10 minutes a day. Walk for 1 minute a day, then 2 minutes a day. Work your way up to 10 minutes at least a day. And then you'll find that consistency breeds more consistency. But what a lot of us do is we're like, oh, I got to go get in shape. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go run 3 miles tonight. Well, if you haven't been running 3 miles tonight, you might do that once. You might do that twice. You might even do that the third day. But you know what's going to happen the fourth day? You're going to take a step and your feet are going to kill you. Your knees are going to kill you. Your back is going to kill you. If you're old enough to be watching me, except for my 18 to 25 guys who I still don't understand how they are my largest watched on YouTube, except for y'all, generally speaking, you're going to hurt yourself. You have to develop the consistency, and sponsors pay attention when they are evaluating you as a sponsor. They are evaluating whether or not you are going to make them money. And you're not going to make them money if you start and stop and start and stop. You've got to be consistent. Okay. All righty. So now here's what I have for you. If you're really liking this, you're resonating with what I'm saying, you're like, JJ, I'm all in. I've heard all of this and I really do want to get a podcast going. I just want you to work with me a little bit on it. This is what I'm offering you for a one-on-one workshop with JJ. Okay. Now this is a new product. Let me explain why I'm giving you something that's really, if we cataloged my time and priced my time like we would my financial services, this is a $500 value. Okay. But the reason I'm discounting this so much is because this is a relatively new offering. I came up with this a couple months ago. So at the end of last year, we came up with this model. And so now I'm still building my collection of people who have success. I'm building my collection of people who've been through the training and send me that testimonial, or have been through the training and send me a snippet of their podcast. I'm still in the initial ground floor stage of this new offering. And so this is actually something that you might take in your business. If you've got a business and you don't have any social proof yet, like you don't have the testimonials and you don't have all the examples, like I helped this person and they made all this money because I helped them. Like if you don't have that yet, discount or maybe even make for free your time on it so that you can build that social proof. Okay, that's what I'm doing here. It was free when we first launched it. Then it was $49. Now it's $99. And we're going to just work it up until it's full price. And once I have all the collateral that I feel comfortable launching it with. Okay, so for the first 5 action takers, after 5, I'm going to turn the link off and you're not going to be able to book this. But for the first 5 action takers, this is what we're offering. We're going to sit down together. This is going to take a couple hours, okay? We're going to sit down together. We're going to look at the focus analysis that I gave you earlier. What are your goals? What's the purpose for the podcast? Where does your expertise lie? Is it something that people are willing to pay for? We're going to talk about what you have access to for recording. Maybe your house is not a good environment because you've got too many people and too many dogs and too many who knows what going on. But maybe there's a quiet room in the library that you can close off. Or maybe you've got access to this or that downtown that you can close off, okay? We're going to analyze your studio equipment that you have on hand and your ability to buy more studio equipment. And we're going to get recommendations based on your own personal situation. Okay. So if you've got the money, I didn't show y'all the $850 cameras because I couldn't find it. I was trying to go through my Amazon wish list because that's where I put all the stuff I want to buy. So we've got the studio going. My next purchase for the studio, I've got a 3-camera setup. I want to buy for my side cameras, instead of being cell phones, I want to get the Sony, right? The Sony camera. All right. And it's $850 a pop. That's what they cost. That's what the big dogs use in a lot of their recording. And that's what I want to use. The lenses and all that's extra. But if you don't have $800, then I'm not going to recommend you an $800. If you've got $20 a month to put into it, we're going to look at what gear you need and what distribution systems are going to work best for you. We're going to look at all that based on your situation, not one size fits all. One size fits all only works for the people you're paying. It doesn't work for everybody. That's why we like to do customized work. Okay. We're going to record a test and trial episode. You and I are going to record a couple of episodes together. We're going to record one where I'm the host and I'm interviewing you, so you can get a feel for some best practices when it comes to recording a guest. I'm going to give you my check sheet for how, when somebody comes on, the very first thing I do is, how do I pronounce your name? Okay. Make sure I've got it right. I run through the checklist. Did they fill out the form correctly? Did I, before I even get them on, did I get their headshot right? Did their website links work? Blah, 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 blah. First question I ask them, how do I say your name? Next question, what do we ask? Next question I ask, okay, is this video or audio only? A lot of people record. Let me go on to me so you can see me. The first question that I ask is, how do I pronounce your name? And for some people, I've had some people from Kenya or Nigeria, and I'm like, okay, let me try it a couple times. I'm like, oh no, you can just say this. I'm like, no. If this is the name that people where you're at call you, then it's the name I want to use. So you will use this podcast in your marketing. Now, I don't tell them that last part, but first of all, it's respectful to say someone's name properly. And second of all, it helps me to say their name properly, because it's more likely that they're going to share the podcast. Okay. And that I'm going to get good respect and goodwill out of the podcast. Okay. I'm not just another lazy American that can't say Ravi. Okay. The second question that I'm going to ask people when they come on my podcast to record an interview, I'm going to ask them, is this a video recording or an audio only? A lot of people will choose the Zoom option, because I give you two options. I give you an audio phone option, and I give you a video through Zoom option. A lot of people will choose the Zoom option because Zoom works better for them than trying to dial in a phone, or they're in another country and they can use Zoom for free as opposed to being on the phone. Okay. And they can use Zoom through their computer as opposed to paying for a phone call. So a lot of times I will do that. And a lot of times they will choose Zoom, but they're not intending for me to put it on video. So that's the first and second questions that I ask in my checklist. When we sit down together for this workshop, you're going to get my checklist so that you can execute, and you might even find some better ways to improve on it. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm going to show you what I do. We're going to do a test run with you as my guest. Then we're going to do a test run with me as your guest. And then we're going to do one where you do it all on your own and you send it to me. And then we're going to do the evaluation. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks and maybe some recommendations for different things. And then you're going to be ready to fly. And I'm going to be so excited for you. Okay. The initial workshop is about 2 hours. The interviews and things is separate from that. Okay. We don't do it all at once because you got to get set up first, right? We're also in the 2-hour initial workshop. We'll do the distribution analysis. Like, what do you have access to? What's going to work for you? What's going to work for your situation? And we're going to do all that analysis. We're going to look at whether or not you need, what's the most important thing? Do you need to get stuff done as soon as you get it done? Because you're like me and you forget, or you move on to the next thing. I mean, look, some of us are just idea people. We just are. Some of us are just idea people. We come up with an idea and we work on it and we think it's done and we move on to the next thing. And I'm the queen of this because I usually finish what I start when I start it. And as the family has gotten older, I don't want to say I've gotten older, but as the family has gotten older and as things have piled up and things have to get done and people run here or there, or someone calls and they expect it, whatever. I have found that I start to do something, I get distracted and I never go back to finish it. And so that's something I'm working on personally, because I never used to be that way. Maybe it's something about being retired now, maybe that I'm retired from the military. Maybe I've gotten a little lax in some of that. I don't know. But I've noticed it's a growing problem. So if you're like me in that respect, you don't need something that's 20 different steps and you might get it done in a week. Whereas, I like to have stuff where I can get this done. I'm spending a morning doing this, and by the time I'm done this morning, all the things are done, and I tie a bow on it and I go. Because you know what's going to happen for me? This may not happen to you. You might be a lot better than me. But what's going to happen for me? I'm going to think it's already done, because I'm used to getting things done when I sit down to get things done. That's been one of the key secrets to my success. I forget which president said it, but there was a president out there that said one of the best ways to get something done is write down the first thing that is most important that you get done on your to-do list, and then don't do anything else till you get that done. Served me very well all these years. Okay. So we analyze all of that. We analyze your medical situation. I know that some of my flightiness is because of the car accident that ended my military career. It's part of me being a disabled veteran. And I could be mad about it, or I could work with it. So we look at your medical. Some businesses and some things don't work for everybody. But if you've got a medical condition, like if you've got fibromyalgia, or you've got something else that flares up at random times, and you're out of commission for a week or two, podcasting can actually be really good for you, because you can do a bunch of episodes. And then whenever you have a flare up, you've already got the episodes built. They're already in the system. They launch without you having to touch them. And then when you're feeling better, you go and record a few more episodes, and you keep it going that way. So this is an excellent thing for people. Podcasting is an excellent thing for people who maybe don't have the kind of health where they can, no kidding, say, I'm going to do this, and this day, every month, every week. Okay. If you have medical issues that kind of take you out of commission a couple weeks out of the month, podcasting can really, really be a blessing for you and for your family. And we analyze all of that in our workshop, our one-on-one workshop. We look at the marketing analysis. We look at how to profit. We look at whether or not you need to place ads. I don't think so, usually. We look at what point you get to hire out the work. Now, I will be honest with you. There are people that I know who do excellent podcasting work. They cost more than I want to pay. I'm almost to the point of paying them because we're getting to the point where I have to be more professional and more consistent with the outgo of the episodes. And we're getting to the point where I'm being called to speak more. And so we're approaching that threshold. A lot of people, I don't know that you're going to need to do all of that unless you are really technically challenged. But we're going to talk about where those thresholds are, what the costs are. I tried to do it cheap and through Fiverr and Upwork, and I failed miserably. Okay. So, but I know some people who do really, really well. But before you sign up with somebody for a year long of publishing your podcast at $1,500 a pop for one podcast a week, we got to make sure that that's going to be money well spent for you. And for many people who are listening to me today, you're just getting started. That's not going to be money well spent for you. Okay. We're going to look at, I talked about consistency being why most of the podcasts fail. Lack of consistency and lack of proper planning and lack of stick-to-itiveness. Okay. We're going to talk about what's going to work for you. And, some people might find that for their situation, it might be better to do one podcast a month and just do that and get it going. Next year, you're going to be a year older anyway. And Lord willing, you're going to have your health and strength. And you're going to wonder, well, gee, should I have gotten started a year ago? Or, but today you might be thinking, well, gee, if I only do one a month, this time next year, I've only got 12 out there. Well, 12 out there is better than nothing. 12, if you have a podcast with one episode every month, like pick your birthday, pick your favorite day of the month, pick the first of the month or the 7th of the month or whatever it is. If you've got a podcast every month on that day, for 2 years, it is going to be more attractive to subscribers. I mean, not subscribers. It is going to be more attractive to sponsors and ads than people who have 20 episodes this month and 2 episodes next month. It's about consistency. And what consistency shows advertisers and sponsors is that you can be dependent on to show up when you need to show up. There is a quote by a guy named Charlie Munger, and it says, if you are lazy and unreliable, it doesn't matter what you're good at. And when I first read that, I was like, poke the eye of the people who are lazy. But you know what? One thing, I've never been called lazy. That's something I've never been called. In fact, most people think I work too hard. Of course, a lot of those people are broke. So, take it or leave it. But one thing, I've never been called as lazy, but I'll tell you what, a lot of people in my past looked at me as unreliable, because I would start and stop and start and stop. Or I would do something every morning, except when I didn't. And I'll give you an example of that in the ministry. I actually stopped because it wasn't something, I wasn't able to get ahead of it. And so it's something we're going to start back up this summer. But I used to do daily scriptures. And when I first did it, it was basically whatever I was reading that day, I would snap a picture of it, highlight the snap, right, where I wanted people to read, and I would just post it every day. And then we got to where we tried to make it all pretty, and we edit it when you get the backgrounds. And then, of course, you don't want to use the same backgrounds all the time. You want to have variety. So then me and my son, it was really precious time. Every school morning, me and my son were reading that day's proverb, and then we were picking out the backgrounds. And then it got to where he wanted backgrounds that were ridiculous. And so then I was trying to do it with him and then separately do it again later. And it just fell apart. But it didn't fall apart. It didn't fall apart at that point. It had actually fallen apart earlier. Why do I say that? Because I was only doing that on weekdays when I was taking my son to school. So during summer, we never did it. And then we started it back up in fall. And now, now it's a whole year later. And now he's got some ideas on what backgrounds. And I'm thinking that's why it fell apart. But in the eyes of people who were looking at it, it fell apart when school got out. To me, I was being consistent because it was every morning as we prepped for school. But to the outside world, I was not being consistent because I wasn't doing it on Saturdays. I wasn't doing it on Sundays, which is kind of understandable. I wasn't doing it on days that we had school holidays. So during spring break, there was nothing for a week. If there was, if we had a couple of snow days, not snow days, but out here they have bad weather days where like they planned just in case they were going to have a bad weather day, but we didn't have bad weather. So now the kids are out. If we had the kids were out for any reason, we didn't get one done. So I felt consistent, but the result wasn't consistent. And so one of the keys to success with a podcast is consistency. Okay. And so we go through all of that. Because my goal with helping you get your podcast together is not just to help you launch one, it's to help you sustain one and profit from one, if profit is one of your goals. Woo, y'all. I hope you have enjoyed this tonight. This has been fun for me. I hope that my energy and my excitement for you has shown through, because I just know you're going to kill it. If you take what I've taught today and you work that into your podcast plans, you will be successful with the podcast. You won't have to take as long as I did, but you will be successful and you will have an impact and you will make some money. And I'm just so excited for the future that I see for you. But that is all I have for you content-wise. I'm going to do a quick scan of the comments. If you have been wanting to ask a question, but I was just so amazing that you didn't want to stop listening to me to ask it, I know I'm reaching there. I'm really reaching there. But if for some reason you had a question that didn't get answered or you want to ask it, now's the time to do so. I am going to go into my JJ Conway, my Ask JJC form to see if we have any questions that have been asked since I started. AskJJC.com. And I'm going to check to see if we have any questions that have come in. While I'm checking, this would be the time for you to drop something in the chat, and I will be able to take a look and see. All right, did we have any new questions come in? Let's edit so I can see the responses. Ooh, we do have questions. Hold on. Let me see the sheet. The spreadsheet. View, please. Let's see. Are these questions to answer publicly? That's the danger of only checking this once a week when I do podcasts. Okay. Aww. Somebody wanted to let me know that they were watching on YouTube. Thank you. Yay. Oh, I appreciate that. Hey, make sure to like and subscribe and love it. I don't understand YouTube on this, okay? So you like a channel, you subscribe to channel, but then you still got to hit the little bell to get notified about their new stuff. So do all the things so you can keep watching me on YouTube. I appreciate you, all right? Let me see. Let me go back and look at the questions. I don't see any questions, so we're going to cut it off for tonight. I'm going to get back to work on Juneteenth Legacy. Y'all, let me do one more plug. Juneteenth Legacy 2024. It is our 6th annual Juneteenth Legacy. It was supposed to be in Atlanta, but life happened and we went online. There's a whole sob story about that. If you want to hear it, you can go out to my YouTube channel. I was so disappointed. I really, really wanted to be in the Legacy Center. But you know what? I've been motivated to open up my own Legacy Center. It's going to come to pass one of these days. All right. But in the meantime, we're going to be online next week, June 19th, 20th, and 21st. The 19th, we're going to kick it off with a pre-recorded address from Dr. George Fraser. The 20th, we're going to rebroadcast Dr. Boyce Watkins' live chat from Chicago's conference last year, our Chicago Juneteenth Legacy last year. And then Friday, we're going to start with our Black Veterans Brunch. And the Black Veterans Brunch is actually a closed session on Zoom where you can talk about real issues that are impacting service people of color. And there's report after report after report that talks about racial disparity. But what I haven't seen talked about, I have not seen a whole lot of here's why we gonna fix it. I've seen report after report after report that says, well, we got a problem, but I haven't seen people talk about how to fix it. But there are people who in their career have fixed it. They have worked around it, over it, and under it, and they have figured out how to succeed while Black. And so we're going to talk about that at the Black Veterans Brunch. I'm so excited, y'all. You know, the theme for this year's conference is whatever it takes. And I want you to be there in the room or on the Zoom, y'all. All right. Well, that's all I have for you tonight. Y'all take care and be blessed.